Hello students, welcome to the lecture series of Generic IKS Indian Knowledge System. I am Dr. Padmshri Mujumdar, Department of Economics, Modern College, Shivajinagar, Pune. I am delivering lecture on lecture 13 and lecture 14 of your module, which is related to Arthashastra. I will cover economic aspects of the module Arthashastra. I'll be having 3 lectures related to Arthashastra covering economic elements. My first lecture is on economic principles and economic ethics and justice in Kautilya's Arthashastra. Let us begin with. Let us know initially about Chanakya. Chanakya, who was also known as Kautilya or Vishnugupta, was born in Takshashila. The historical period in which Chanakya lived was around the 4th century BC. He was a gifted student and became a professor at the university at a very young age. Interested in politics, he went to Pataliputra, the most powerful city of the Nanda kingdom, to counsel its rulers. Although Nanda accepted the advice of Kautilya for a time, due to certain policies suggested by Chanakya, which were related with poverty alleviation and distribution of income by king amongst society, Nanda insulted him. Chanakya further take the revenge of his humiliation by destroying the Nanda dynasty and making Chandragupta Maurya as the king of Magad. Now, let us know about Arthashastra, a book written by Arya Chanakya around 300 BC or 150 AD. The meaning of Artha is not just wealth, but the material well-being of individuals. Arthashastra comprises 150 chapters, 180 prakarnas, and 6,000 verses, which deals with statecraft, economics, and governance. He used the word Varta, means national economy, and the king should have good grasp of Varta. Chanakya considered economics as the most important aspect as it provides the basis for human existence and survival. He has given various economic principles to form the foundation of economic system. The economic ideas given by Chanakya is a good blend of idealism and realism, and so they were not just suitable in ancient times, but also has an enduring relevance even today's world. Let us start with economic principles mentioned by Chanakya in Arthashastra. The first economic principle mentioned by Chanakya was related with economic administration and responsibility. Kautilya advocated centralized economic control over all the economic activities. According to him, regulated economic activities are necessary for ensuring stability, growth, and equitable distribution of national income. A careful analysis of cost, benefits, and risks associated with economic policies considered by him as necessary. Besides, he advocated rational economic decision making based on planning for promoting efficiency and maximizing the economic outcome. The second economic principle advocated by Chanakya was related with money and coinage. Kautilya recognized the importance of standardized currency for facilitating economic transactions and trade. He advocated establishment of mints, quality control measures, and standardized weights for maintaining value and integrity of currency. The third principle was related with tax policy and revenue collection. According to Kautilya, a well-structured tax system is necessary to generate revenue for the state. He called taxes as Rajkar, A sustainable financial base can be created by collecting taxes from various sources like land, agriculture, trade, and industry. He has stated that the tax revenue should be allocated for the social welfare initiative like poverty alleviation, provision of public goods, and services for overall well-being of the society. The fourth principle was related with importance of economic activities in any of the nation. Kautilya has emphasized on various sectors of the economy and provided attention towards the role played by those sectors in the economic development. The first economic activity mentioned by Kautilya was agriculture. Agriculture is the foundation of the economy, as per Kautilya. He emphasized the importance of agricultural productivity, land management, irrigation, and the adoption of the efficient farming techniques to ensure food security, economic stability, and rural development. The second economic activity is trade and commerce. Trade is advocated by Kautilya for driving economic growth. He encouraged the promotion of trade routes and the establishment of marketplaces. He also suggested fair regulation for ensuring economic integration and prosperity of the trade. The fourth principle was manufacturing and industry. Kautilya encouraged the establishment of manufacturing centers and promotion of skilled craftsmanship. He has identified the importance of industry. The importance of industries was there in value addition of the product and also in contributing to economic diversification and employment generation of the country. The fourth economic activity, according to Kautilya, was services and skill development. Kautilya emphasized the importance of professional skills such as medicine, law, education, and administration in promoting the development. These services are important for social well-being in the country. To sum up, all these principles are emphasizing on planning for rational decision making and well-being of the society. Currency regulation, tax policy, relative importance of all the different economic activities explained by Kautilya in Arthashastra were relevant in shaping the contemporary economic system. Now, hello students. Welcome to the generic IKS lecture series. I am Dr. Padmshri Mujumdar, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics, Modern College, Shivajinagar, Pune 5. I am dealing with your lecture number 13 and lecture 14 of your syllabus module, which is related to Arthashastra. And as I have said, I will cover economics aspect of Arthashastra. This is my second lecture, and today we are going to cover trade and commerce in Arthashastra in this lecture. So let us begin with. Trade was considered by Arya Chanakya as a third pillar of economic activity. The initial two pillars were agriculture and cattle rearing. The aim of these three economic activities was to generate resources in the form of grains, cattle, gold, forest produce, or labor. The king obtained a treasury and army with the help of these resources, and that was suitable for him to use for domestic people and to control the enemies also. There were certain trade policies mentioned in Arthashastra. Those trade policies were related to domestic trade as well as foreign trade. Now let us begin with the trade policies mentioned in Arthashastra related to domestic trade. The state and private merchants, both local as well as foreign, were involved at the time of Chanakya in trade. The production and sale of the commodities are distributed between public as well as private sector. So there was presence of both public as well as government sector in the production and distribution of commodities. The chief controller of state trading was appointed and was given the responsibility for equitable distribution of local and foreign goods. Thus, the public distribution system was present at that particular time period. The chief controller of state trading used to sell crown commodities. What are crown commodities? Those are the crown commodities which were emerges from the crown properties, that is government properties, or the commodities which are acquired by the government. These commodities were directly distributed to public through the state-owned retail outlets, or even by appointing private traders as an agent wherever the government outlets were not available. The chief controller of state trading was also responsible for regulating the trade practices of private merchants by inspecting them periodically. The government was also maintaining buffer stock of extra commodities. Kautilya has given list of guidelines for ensuring trade practices that we are going to study little later. And at the same time, the taxes and fines were also imposed on domestic private traders. Now let us move on to foreign trade policy. Kautilya was aware of the theory of gains from trade and understood the benefits of benefits which are received from integrated markets. He encouraged the policy of import promotion more. The policy measures like tax concession, liberal legislative actions, permission to earn higher profit margin were suggested to promote the imports. Export was also encouraged, but it was controlled by the state authority at that time. The chief controller of state trading was the official in charge of export. Kautilya advised to undertake foreign trade only if there was a profit or there were political or strategic advantages in trading these types of the commodities. However, he had discouraged export of weapons and valuable materials of the country. He recommended imposition of taxes on imports as well as exports. But according to him, the taxes should not be imposed to this of discussion so far done on the fair trade practices mentioned in Arthashastra. See, Arthashastra has given all these practices are that is to be utilized for benefit of trade. The first one was locally produced and imported good shall be sold for the benefit of the public. The second trade practice was in case of excess supply of commodity, a buffer stock shall be built up by paying a higher price than the prevailing market price. When the market price reaches to the support level, the buying price shall be changed according to the situation. Third principle, if the stock of commodities becomes excessive, then its sale should be canalized through state-controlled outlay. And the merchant shall sell only from the accumulated stock until it is exhausted with no profit margin. It means Kautilya had provided attention towards excess availability of the output, as excess product always leads downfall in the economy. So to avoid that downfall, it was recommended to maintain this kind of stock of the commodities, and the role was assigned to the government. The fourth practice was related to surplus stock unaccounted in the hands of merchants shall be sold for the benefit of the public. The fifth principle was even a large profit shall be foregone if it is likely to cause harm to the public. And the last was no artificial scarcity shall be created by accumulation of commodities constantly in demand. If you carefully look at remaining three, that is last three principles, you would observe that these are some such trade practices recommended by Kautilya and Arthashastra, which always ensures welfare of the consumer, so that the artificial scarcity or unnecessary rise in price should not take place. Now, on the view of Arthashastra on foreign trade, the importance of foreign trade was considered as essential element of trade uh, by Kautilya. The trade routes are developed for the growth of the foreign trade. The state employed officers who traveled to the foreign lands as the dignitaries were used with more benefits by Arya Chanakya. They studied the buying and selling activities and consumption patterns of merchants and customers in the foreign market and recognized the potential markets for the sale of indigenous goods. So the major role was assigned by Kautilya to them for identification of markets to the domestic commodities. The Mauryan Empire built ships also, and the Mauryan Empire let the ship uh, given out for on hire for the transport as well as merchandise. The traders had to pledge their assets as collateral for hiring the ship for transporting their goods from one country to other country, one place to other place. The hiring fee was imposed by the state, which was to be paid upon the return of the vessels. The chief controller of state trading was monopolizing the export of crown commodities. And as I've said already, that the export of commodities was only permitted in case of profit, or in extreme cases, it was permitted if economic, political, and strategic advantages are assured by that export. Interestingly, Kautilya has supported import promotion policy. Imported goods, according to him, should be made available in all possible places and should be made available to the people in towns as well as countrysides. This is important according to him, as it will improve the living standard and quality of life of people. Various tax exemptions were given to the importers to promote imports. Besides, legal actions was taken against the foreign merchants only in the extreme condition. The higher profit margin was also allowed for the imported goods, which was 10% as compared to 5%, which was permitted in local goods. The customs duty was imposed on imported commodities. The frontier officer had vested authority to inspect the caravans carrying the foreign goods, which further classify the goods as per their value. The chief controller of customs inspects it further, and dutiable goods were weighted, measured, and counted to ascertain the duty. The duty was paid at the port of entry. Certain commodities were used to be duty free. However, the chief controller of customs were given the permission to levy penalty on the violators who tried to cheat or escape any kind of payment of the duties. To conclude, we can say the policy of Kautilya on fair trade practices, state trading, development of state rule, encouragement to domestic as well as foreign trade aims at economic development of the country, as well as development and welfare of the people therein. All these policies had influence on contemporary development strategies. We could even see the relevance of this policy in present day economy. Thank you. Hello students, welcome again in this lecture series of Generic IKS Indian Knowledge System. I am Dr. Padmshri Mujumdar, Department of Economics, Modern College, Shivaji Nagar, and I am delivering my last third lecture on economic aspects of your module Arthashastra. And the title of today's lecture is Economic Policies in Arthashastra and its Relevance in Today's Economy. As you know, in Arthashastra, Chanakya has mentioned about various economic policies. These policies were related with trade, regulation of markets, and they were related with tax policies or the policies related to sources of revenues and also labor force. We have already completed in earlier two lectures the policies related to trade as well as regulation of markets. In this lecture, we are initially focusing our attention towards the tax policy given by Chanakya and Arthashastra, as well as the policy of other sources of revenue and the policy pertaining to the labor force. So to begin with, we will focus our attention on tax policy. Taxation was considered as a fundamental pillar by Chanakya in state's financial system. According to him, tax is the most important source of tax revenue, or rather state revenue. Kautilya has suggested various taxes, and those taxes were based on certain principles. So he has recommended certain principles while imposing taxes by the government. What were the principles? The first principle was the taxing power of the state should be limited. That means the government should not impose taxes anytime without informing the people. So the limited power has been assigned to the government. The second principle was that the taxes should not be felt to be heavy or excessive. So instead of putting more taxes, it is better to keep the tax rates low and earn more and more money. The third principle was tax should hike only in a gradual manner. It means the taxes should not be increased immediately or instantly. It should slowly increase so that it will be bearable for the people. The next principle was taxes should be levied in the proper place, time and form. So kind of convenience is important while imposing the taxes for making the payment of the taxes. And the last principle which was recommended was tax level should be equitable and reasonable. That means the taxes should be imposed as per the capacity of a person to pay. And they should be reasonable in size, they should not be excessive. So ideally, the government should collect the taxes according to Chanakya like a honeybee that sucks just right amount of honey from the flower so that both can survive. And this was very interesting example that was given by Chanakya while explaining the tax principles. Now he has recommended various types of taxes. The first type that he has recommended was land tax. Land tax he has called as Bhu Pariksha. This tax was imposed on the land, which was considered as at that time as a primary source of revenue. Since agriculture was the prime activity of the economy, it has contributed lot in state revenue. The funds which were collected from agricultural tax was used majorly for development of the agricultural infrastructure and most importantly ensuring food security. The second tax recommended by Kautilya was customs duty, which is called as shulka. It consists the taxes which were imposed on imports as well as exports. Custom duty helped in regulating especially international trade and generating the revenue for the state as well. The import duty was 20% ad valorem. Now, what is ad valorem? It is a Latin phrase, and as per the meaning of this phrase, the taxes should be imposed according to the value of imported commodity. These taxes had to be paid by the foreigners at the city gate. And other than this customs duty, certain octroi and other gate tolls were also imposed on foreign commodities, which used to be 1/5 of the customs duty. The third tax suggested by Chanakya was called as transaction tax, which is known as Vyaji. This was a very important tax affecting every transaction in goods. It comprises basically sales tax and revenue collected by the way of surcharges. The transaction tax was automatically collected in the most of the transactions by the government by considering the weight of the transactions and capacity to measure the volume of the transaction. The fourth tax recommended was known as professional tax, which is known as Vrittikara. It was imposed on an individual's profession or occupation. It played a very important role in redistributing the wealth and promoting the social equity. Because in this tax, the government used to impose more taxes on those professions which are earning more than those who are earning less. So the principle of equity was absolutely followed in this particular tax. The next tax was very interesting, which is known as monopoly tax, which is called as parigha. Kautilya suggested this tax to be paid by those manufacturers whom the permission was given to manufacture or trade a commodity which was coming under the monopoly of the government. It was like a license fee for permitting the production of the commodity or trading of a commodity which was earlier done by the government. The sixth category of the tax was royalty, which is known as prakriya. A fixed amount has to be paid in this tax on leased mines, salt pans, boats for conch, or even pearl fishing. And this tax was paid to the government because these are the natural resources and the government is permitting the respective private producers to use those resources. So in lieu of such type of the use of resources, the certain share in production should be given under this tax by those producers to the government. And the next and the last tax recommended by Kautilya was the tax on army maintenance. So it is called as army maintenance tax, which is called as Sena Bhaktam. It was an occasional tax which was imposed on people when army was sent to a location specifically to protect the country. So it is a kind of appeal made by the government to make the payment of such type of the taxes for the betterment of the army, which is eventually helping the respective government or respective country from the foreign attack. Other than these taxes, there are certain other sources of revenue which were identified by Kautilya in his in the book Arthashastra. In it, the first source that he has mentioned was income from crown property. This comprises the revenue that can be earned from the state property. The major share was from crown agricultural land, that is, the land which is possessed by the government. The crops grown on such type of the lands were usually grains, beans, lentils, oilseeds, sugarcane, fibers, etc. And certain proportion of those produce used to be paid by the people to the government in the form of land taxes or land revenue. This constituted major part of revenue. It also comprises the revenue which is received by the government from mining, metallurgy, irrigation work, as well as forest. The second non-tax source of revenue was income from state-controlled activities. It comprises revenue from manufacturing activities conducted by the government. This comprises revenue from manufacture of textile, salt, alcoholic liquor, entertainment, betting, and also gambling. This was a major source of revenue for the government other than the tax revenue. Now, let us